Okay, I took that radio out, which cleared up a lot of space to see what was back in here, and I took out the fuse block. I see I took it out. I've got it pulled down, and interestingly enough, I tried touching the hot wire to this point here, which should be where it needs to connect, but it's not transferring energy into the fuse box because there's no hot points over here, and when I touch a hot wire to that, so I'm going to take the whole thing off. These three here were all ground wires. There was also a ground wire over here from the cigarette lighter and another one from the radio. I think what I'm going to do is shoot a picture of these 5 wires that are connected here. By the way, these were running over to well, these were the hot wire that was originally coming in there, and they run in with these other wires that go, oh, who knows where. You know, they're probably different things, been used at different times. Maybe that none of it's being used now, but what I do a lot of times when I'm wiring and stuff is I just take my cell phone, I'll just shoot a picture, and what I want to see is these wires right here. That yellow, that white one, and that orange one, and that one with the stripe, and that gray one with a stripe, and this purple one here. That way, once I got a picture, if I pull all these off and suddenly the bolt wouldn't crank, or there was something that should work that stopped working, I can come back to this and hook it up. And I don't think that's going to happen because I don't think there's any power. Well, I don't think there's any. I guess I had checked this before, but I could check it again right now while y'all are here. See if this had power to it here. Then oh, look there. It does have power to it. Okay. Well, I didn't realize that, but okay. So this wire here does have power. See, I ran a wire all the way from the battery to bring power up here, but apparently I have power right there. So, could be that some of these things are actually working, but I tell you what I'm going to do still. I'm going to disconnect them all and see how this green stuff is all over this, corrosion and stuff. I'm just going to take all this out. I'm going to clean it all up. I'm going to probably pull a battery out of the Rambler, bring it up in the garage, sit this on a bench, and just run some power into it, put a ground on the other side, check each one of these fuse areas and see if there's power going through this thing. There. It didn't seem to me that there was, but it could just be a matter of everything being corroded. There's a couple of screws here. I should be able to pop these screws out, and that will allow me to see what I expect to see inside of here. There's a piece of metal here that's going to run in here, and it's going to run to one side of these fuses, and then it's going to run out of here. It's going to go to the other side of the fuse and then connect to these here, so that the power that comes in here has to pass through each one of these fuses before it goes out of here. This ground over here, you'll notice, is not connected to anything here. This is just a place to have a ground, and there was one of these wires would have been grounded so that you had a ground right here. Now that I've disconnected this, I may have disconnected the ground that was up there for the light earlier, but we'll see. But I'll take this in the garage, we'll take it apart, we'll clean it up, we'll test it, we'll come back and we'll mess with it some more. Thing has some little bitty releases on the back of it that you're supposed to be able to pop loose, but they work somewhat. Yeah, there she goes. So, okay, power comes in here, goes to the inside of each one of these things. This is where your fuses would go. Your fuse would fit down into that thing. The other side of your fuse would fit down into this thing. This thing right here is the part that sticks out, and then your wire goes there. So what this does is this brings the power in, runs it through this fuse, or these fuses, takes it out the other side. What could help a lot is to de-corrode all this, and one way to do it is to sand all these little contact points and stuff like that. Sometimes just putting oil on stuff like this, like I've done here already, will help. But what should happen is if we have a hot wire right here, fire should be running through this thing down to that. And sometimes a piece of metal won't connect with another piece of metal. Now, you'll notice here, there's a bolt here, and this bolts onto this piece of metal. There's a bolt there, see? I had a 30-like engine in it one time, and it stopped running. I couldn't figure out why. Well, I had a wire that ran to a nut on top of a coil, and the wire was hot, but the fire wasn't making it to the coil, and it had a clip on it, and electricity wouldn't pass through that clip. I have no idea why. But I took that clip off, got rid of it, put a new clip on it, and that fixed my problem. Now, sometimes with something like this, it could be that if I'm able to turn this and loosen it, there could be corrosion that's gotten up under that, and that could be keeping the fire from passing through here. Now, this may not be worth the trouble. I could probably go to the parts store, buy me a new one of these pretty easily. Yeah, I could do that. Well, it's kind of fun to take things apart. I don't mind messing with it a little bit more. Yep, don't. So I hadn't quite decided what I want to do with that, but we'll think about it some more. In the meantime, I'll keep messing with it because I'm having fun. I'm having a little fun. I'm having some fun. Now I got that loose from that. We can take these off here. Take these off here. I can take a little sandpaper and clean up these contact points. I think I'll do that. I like to keep a little bit of sandpaper nearby. This is probably the wrong kind of sandpaper because this here is sandpaper for wood. But it'll do. I'm not doing much with it, just a little sanding. And I'm just going to take and break off a little piece like this. Put it over here. There you go. By the way, that's copper. You see how it's gold when I sanded it off? So it looked like it was chrome plated, And it also looks green because copper will turn green when it gets stained. It gets stuff on it. That's why they use copper cleaner to clean a lot of things back in the old days. My thinking is, though, if I sand this and then I sand each one of these contact points where these things would go. And when I say these things, I'm talking about these little doohickeys, fuses. No, they're not fuses. Breakers? Yeah, they are fuses. Okay. If I sand each one of these, and then I was thinking I'd test this, but you know what I may do is just take it back up on the boat. I've already got that wire up there hooked to a hot wire, and I could reconnect that wire, and then stick these fuses in here and see if they're hot. It's quicker than a trip to the parts store. And that looks like a, I don't know if it's brass or not. It might be a brass piece with some kind of coating on it. That bolt right there. So anyway, I go on the bottom side. We'll do the same thing because it makes contact down here with that. Clean the wrong end. Oh, that's okay. And now what I'm going to do is take each one of these. I should be able to look at these and tell if they're bad. Now I'll tell you how I'm doing it. I'll show you this. I don't know if you can see it or not, but if I hold this up to the sunlight, you see there's a Z inside that? Well, that Z is a piece of metal that connects this side to that side. That Z is the part that burns up. So if you've got a fuse and that fuse overheats, it'll burn that piece of metal up inside and it will no longer make this connection. They make fuses to do that so that the fuse will burn up before it will burn up your wiring. One way you can test these is to get your test light, which I don't have my test light hooked to a ground right now, but if you've got a fuse box, you can touch your test light to the top of each one of these. There's two little points here, one side and the other side. One side should be hot if there's fire coming to it. The other side should be hot if this piece of wire inside hasn't burned out, so if the fuse is not burned out. Now in this case, where this one is all green and stuff from sitting in that boat a long time, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sand the connection points here. I sanded these inside of here. I'm going to sand these connection points. And then I'm going to look at that one, and that one isn't burned up, so I'm going to put it in place. Now keep in mind, well, I guess I could get my phone out because I took a picture of where those were. So let's take a, let's see, I think I'd have to take these out though to put them in a final way. So what I'm going to do is just stick these in here. So I'll just stick one right there. I'll check the next one. Let's see that Z is not burned up on that one. I'll sand it. I'll do the same thing. Wouldn't hurt to spray all this with some WD-40. WD-40 is really good at chasing moisture. You can use it on a wiring system. If you got something that ain't making a good contact, WD-40 on there, and that helps. They also make a kind of a lubricating grease that you can buy. I tend to believe that stuff is probably not a lot different than Vaseline. But you could put some of that lubricating grease. I probably ought to buy some of that rather than just keep using Vaseline. One thing I noticed about Vaseline is it will turn a weird color and kind of cook. I've put it on some wiring before and I've had it look kind of weird after a while. So if I go to the parts store today, maybe I'll get some. I don't think I've got any of that. I get some of that lubricating grease. I haven't kept these in order, but like I say, I've got a picture of where they go. So I think what I'm going to do once I get all this making contact is look at my picture and put all the fuses where they were, put all the wiring where they were, put the whole thing back. It may be that those lights will actually work when I do that off the original switch, but it could also be that the original switch itself is corroded and messed up. So it may work, it might not work. Hard to know till you try it. Now the other thing that I'll be doing the same thing with is these ones. These are the same thing. This is the other side where the wire would connect, and this would fit to the other side of these fuses over here, and of course all that goes inside this block. So but I'm not going to do that now. I'm going to do this and then go out and check what we got, and if we're happy with that, I'll come back and sand those little bits. And we'll do them. And I believe I sanded all of these on both sides. I might not have them, I've just done one side, but just for good measure, I'll run the sandpaper through it again just to make sure. These fuses are different sizes, by the way. There's 5 amp fuses and 2 amp fuses. Now, a 2 amp fuse is really small. That's about the size of a fuse that you would use in something like a CB radio. On CB radio, you want a very small fuse because you want it to burn up before it burns up your radio. Now I'm talking about these old CB radios that we used to use like 60 years ago out on the road, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, a long time ago. They might make better setups in radios nowadays, I don't know. But 5 amp fuse is not much bigger. It's still pretty small. I think one of these was a 10 amp fuse. A lot of times in the car you'll have a 20 amp fuse, could have one even bigger than that. So yeah. Suppose I could hold this with that. That'd be a lot easier on my thumbs. One thing about a boat, it's going to be out in the weather. So the idea that these things got corroded over time, this boat was made in, I think 2000 or 2008, I'm not sure. But this boat's been around for a long time. If it was made in 2000, it'd be over 20 years ago. So you can imagine this being up under the dash of a boat that's exposed to weather, because a lot of times on a boat, even when it's out of the water, it's still in the weather. People park them outside. Sometimes they cover them up, sometimes they don't, but you're still going to be getting moisture. in all the electronic parts, so that can be an issue. It could cause, anytime you get corrosion on metal, you're going to get, anytime you get moisture on metal, you're going to get corrosion. And we got one more. This is a 3 amp here, and it's good. Pulled a horn out of that boat yesterday, and probably if you took that, if they would get that horn apart, you'd probably find the same thing. It's probably all corroded inside. I know it's got some dirt dauber's nest in it. Probably could fix that horn too if we could get it apart. I might mess with that. On my other boat, I've got a little horn that works off a little compressed air canister. It's really loud. And that's a pretty good horn to have on a boat, but it might be nice to have an electric horn too. Just for, I don't know, just because you don't have to locate it. If you need to blow your horn, it's right there at your fingertips, you know. That's a good thing. All right, so I'm gonna take this out to the boat and take my light tester, and I'm gonna take you guys, and we'll see what we got. Okay, there's one more place where I could have corrosion that would keep this from contacting, and that's in this wire itself. See, this wire is also corroded, and that's the wire that goes onto this. So it would be defeating my purpose to clean all that and not clean this. So that's what I'll do. I'll just take and I'm gonna sand on that till it becomes gold. That copper will turn. Let's just scrape the stuff off it. You can see its true color, which is a kind of a shiny gold color. And now when I touch my light, and I've grounded my light to that, this light should light up. Y'all see that lighting up? Okay, so it serves to reason that if this will light up there, then this should light up here, which it's doing now. And just to hold that kind of snug, I'm gonna stick this nut on it. So with that connected there, we have fire in this block. You can see because the light's lighting up. We should also have fire in each one of these points, because it goes up through here, it touches the tip of that, and it comes out the top of that fuse right there. Touched that a little too hard. And where that's not in a fuse box, it's really easy for that to slip around. And I should have fire on the other side of the fuse here when I touch that. It may be that I need to get these fuses in a better place before I can do this part of the test. That one works on that side, because every time I try to touch them, they woggle around. Once I get them in the box, they won't do that. So, but we know that this part is working. We're going to clean up those other edges that I was showing you a while ago. We're going to put it all back in the box. I'll bring it back out here, and then we'll individually test each fuse. Once we've done that, I'll reconnect all the wires, and we'll just to see, we'll reconnect like the cigarette lighter and that horn switch and some different things up here, and we'll see what works. Another thing I'm going to want to clean up is this. This was the ground that I had on that, and it's all green too, so we'll do the same thing here. It's right scaly green looking. In fact, I'll just take that with me back to my desk, and we'll do that there. Okay, so see if we can figure out how to put this thing back together. Now, this thing was over here, I do believe. No, it was over here. I think it was right there. So, it would not be that unusual for me to get this all the way put together and then not be able to figure out how to get it back together. Does that make sense? Yeah. I mean, that sounds about like something I would do. So this goes in here like this, and then each one of these goes over here like this. So in order for this piece on the end to fit down in there, I have to loosen this bolt up because there's a head on there that has to fit in a hexagon shaped slot down here. There you go, like that. And once that's in place, then you can tighten this. And that keeps that middle one in place, and there's a notch in each one of these. And now these ones all go over here, but each one of these also has a notch, a little pin, and these have to fit in that pinhole. Each one of them. That keeps these things lined up so that your fuses will be where they need to be when you stick them down in there. So it may have been a lot easier to go to the store and get another one of these, but you know, we learned a little by taking this one apart. Not a bad thing. It's always good to learn a little. Some of these fits better on some places than on others, so I don't necessarily understand it, but I'm okay with it. Now this goes. Well, that was pretty tricky, but it's also pretty satisfying once you get it all back together. But, you know, depending on how far I live from the parts store and how much money I had, Might be a toss-up whether I would go to the trouble of taking one of these apart, putting it back together, cleaning it all up like that, or just go to the parts store and find it and get another one. Sometimes it's a matter of how far it is to the parts store, how much money you got. Sometimes you can't find one in the parts store and you have to order one online. So this should work. Now, where's my hot wire? Where's my hot wire? Should be a hot wire right there, right? Where's it at? Should be a hot wire bolt. Where'd it go? It's not in there. That's not it. Where'd it go? Okay, so I got it all back together, but I'm missing my bolt where the hot wire goes, right there. So, this got to come back apart. And I need to find...
Winter's coming.
I don't even see it on the table here anywhere. Okay. This is gonna not be good. My hot wire is under here. So that means this is backwards. That means I need to take this whole thing apart and turn that around. Oh, the joy. Richard, you sure you don't want to go to the parts store? No, I'm not sure. Not at all. It was my fault. See, sometimes just some little detail will catch you that way. The important thing is not to give up. You know, I've known mechanics to throw wrenches against the wall and get mad and swear and have a little fit. You know, I guess that relieves some anxiety, but it doesn't necessarily help. And well, if you can control your emotions when you're being a mechanic and something doesn't go right, and just not lose your cool and mess up what you've been working on, well, that's helpful. If you can do that. Some people can, some people can't. Some people are happier being a mechanic because they can, although it does require a lot of control to not get ugly and mad and stuff. Oh, that's annoying. It is annoying. But, you know, do it over till you get it right. That's the way it goes. I don't really want to break these little plastic clips off. There. Now we get to start all over. At least now we know how it goes. So how it goes is that this needs to turn around. So I need to take that off. Now I see the error of my ways. Well, actually, I don't have to take this off. All I have to do is lift it off. I can actually leave that on there. Pick this up, turn it right around, set it back down. I need to get this bolt back in the hole. put this all down. And you can tell now because each one of these line up with each one of these little round things here. So if y'all take one of these apart, put it back together, see how this one doesn't have one there? That should have been the part sticking out and not that. So now each one of these has to be put back like this. And sometimes they don't seem to fit very good on one way, so it's a good idea to spin them around to the other way. Sometimes they fit. Sometimes they just fit better on the other side. I don't know why. Maybe I'll give myself a boat ride later today to reward my patience. I need more light. There. Okay, now this goes on top of that. Like this. Nope. Goes on top of it like this. Man, what a bunch of fun this was, huh? I didn't realize you were going to have so much fun today, did you? I hope when I make this into a video it's helpful. I hope it actually shows something that would be good for you, because sometimes it's really easy to make a video and then when you go to edit it, it's just enough clear shooting to be worthwhile. So we'll try it. But the good part is we're at a point now where I can take this back on the boat and we can test it. And then if we like it, we can plug all the wires in. And then we can study on that for a little bit and see where we go from there. Now I'm going to take all these fuses, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Put them in my pocket, and I think we got everything we need to go up on the boat and see what it looks like. Okay, we'll start over from fresh. We've got the hot wire right there. See that? Connect the hot wire to this right here. Now we should have hot stuff inside of each one of these grooves on this side. We won't have it on the other side until we get the fuse in it. Y'all see that? Y'all see that lighting up? That means it's working. Next thing I'm gonna do is get my phone out. We're gonna put all those fuses in there the way that they were. So based on that picture that I took earlier, I'm gonna need my glasses for this. So from the hot wire, I'm gonna lay my fuses down. So from the hot wire, which is right here, we had looks like a 5 amp, and then we had a 2 amp, and then we had a 10 amp on the end. Let's see what I'm doing here. We had another 5 amp on this side. On the other side we had a 5 amp, a 5 amp, a 5 amp, and I'm missing one. Should have another 3 amp. Oh, here it is right here. I have that 3 amp right there. So with this pointing like this, they should go in like that. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put this one here, this one here, this one here, and this one here. On the other side, I'm going to do the same thing. Put this one here, this one here, this one here, this one here. Now what we should have now is that each one of these should be hot. It should light up my light. So it's doing that. Can you see that? This is lit, lit. Is this one lit? Not lit. Not lit. This one's lit. Lit, 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 and lit. So we got 2 over here that are not lit. Let's just take them out and flip them over. It might not have been all the way down in there. Now let's try it. We got lit, not lit, not lit, and lit. We got 2 here that aren't working. They may be bad fuses even though they look good. I don't mean they are good. Let's put them in here again. This time we'll test them up here. There should be some fire. See, it's got fire there. It does not have fire there, so that 2 amp is a bad fuse. This one, this is how you test your fuses on these too. You got fire there. I'm touching one side of that. You don't have fire there. So I got 2 bad fuses, a 5 amp and a 2 amp. But I got 3 that are good. So now, go back to my phone and see what we'll bring up that same picture here. So luckily all the wires that were hooked were on that side. So we've got white, orange, stripe and stripe. So we got white, and white wire. We got an orange wire, we've got an orange stripe, and we've got a gray stripe. And on the other side, we've got a purple, a big purple wire that comes down to here. There. Now, we've also got these grounds here. So we got 3 grounds here. And to be honest with you, it doesn't matter where the grounds go because the ground is going to be the same on each one. So we're going to put one here. We'll put one here. We'll put one over here. I can tell this one's a radio because it's hooked to that little resistor thingy. So, where did the picture go? So I got these 3 grounds. Now, this is also goes to the, what does this go to? That might have been hooked to the horn. So, with that, let's go up to that, remember that switch we had the other day? Up here, light switch. And we had a ground up here. See, that's hot now. It wasn't hot the other day, so we may actually get to the point where we can get this to work. It may not be any good place to sit, y'all, which I run into a lot. Let's try sitting right about here. It's pretty precarious, so you just hang on. Now, the other day, this ground on this end was good, so I'm going to hook this wire to the ground right there. Now I'm going to hook it to this switch right here. And a second ago I had fire. Yeah, I do. So I'm going to throw this switch. So that one is staying on all the time. This one is on and off. And my trailer light, which is what I started all this to try to fix, it's hooked to this thing over here. Remember I was messing with this here and put this little toggle switch on there? Yeah, let's unhook the toggle switch. Well, actually, if I come back to where that was hooked, which was here, that should be on, off, on. Okay. Okay. So if I hook that, that back up here, then that should activate Where is that now? Oh, I lost my ground. That's why it won't work if you lose your ground. So let's put your ground. Let's put this back here on the ground. And now according to this, I've got that light working, so I'm going to put that on. And then I'm going to go outside and look at the light. I'll take you with me. I believe what I've done is just made the original switch work, which is good, because if it works, then I can put that original switch box back in there and not have to worry about filling that hole, which is kind of what I was hoping to do originally. Yep, we got light. Now we went through a lot of trouble to get that light, and I think I said originally that all we really had to do is run a wire and a switch. And I showed you how I would have done that with a toggle. I'm happier to have it working off the correct switch.